Hello everyone, welcome to the Ranting Shop. It's me, Melissa. Today I wanted to step into the shop really quickly to just share my thoughts about the Alexis interview with Kojo. I wanted to speak about certain things or certain reasons as to why I think Alexis did what she did during the reunion, as well as why I think she didn't give Kojo the answer that he expected her to give him, and why she also flipped it back on him and asked him questions and kind of dissed him a little bit in the interim. So firstly, what I will say is she started off speaking about the fact that she is not people's perceptions of her. Nobody, especially Alexis, wants to be boxed in. So her entire life, that's just the way she is. She's a very rebellious individual. If you try to constrict her by your own prejudgments of her or your own perceptions of who you think she is, she's gonna always prove you wrong every time. Because what I think that does, or what I think she does it for, is because nobody wants to be what people think they are. Nobody wants their identity to be other people's perceptions of them. I think when you give people too much power over who they think you are, then you start not understanding who you are. And I feel like in her attempt to not be boxed into these preconceived notions, she tries to break out, and when she breaks out, that's where you see the dualities of Alexis. You see the good side and you see the bad side of Alexis. The good side is people's perceptions of her, which she does play into when it comes to her family, her friends, people she likes, people that benefits her, situations that benefit her. She reacts in that positive, nice manner that people think somebody like her should speak to or react to. And then when it comes to the situation of the dark side, she doesn't care to appease the people she doesn't care for and she doesn't like, and maybe I wouldn't even say that she wants to fit in with certain types of people or certain crowds. I more so just think that she wants to camouflage. Nobody wants to stick out like a sore thumb. She wants to stick out in regards to being her own person, but then at the same time, she wants to be able to camouflage and be around everybody and talk how everybody talks. But I feel like in some regards, it doesn't always work because people know, okay, she's not like us, she's not from our community, she doesn't talk like us. Watch her put on an accent, watch her be fake. People see it as being fake. People often see, when you go, or I should say, when you contradict people's perceptions of you, they almost see you as a hypocrite. Like, why are you not what I think you are? Like, why aren't you this prissy girl, this girl that thinks she's too good for everybody? Why are you so down to earth? Why are you like this? Why do you play basketball? Why do you go to the hood and do this and do that when you don't have to do this? Like, what's your point? You're phony. That type of situation. So I also mentioned the fact that pretty privilege comes into play when it comes to Alexis, because I remember in the beginning of the episode, everybody spoke so much about, oh, she's pretty, that's why all the guys like her. She's the preference, almost in a way that was jealous, like jealousy induced. Like, look at her, of course all the guys would like her, she's light skinned and she has curly hair. And I think what the guys liked the most about Alexis is simply that she was cool. She wasn't trying to be better than the men. She wasn't trying to act as if they're not worth her time. She made herself accessible to the men. I think that's why they liked her. And if you want to look at a contrasting individual, someone like Vanessa, a lot of the men felt as if she was closed off and she wasn't being open to all of them. And I feel like that just speaks to the person or part of the person Alexis is. I don't like the idea that when somebody or when you see the worst of an individual, it means that that's who the person's real colors are. I don't agree to that. I feel like people are multiple ways. I could be nice today, angry tomorrow, upset the next day. It all depends on my circumstances, my stress level, my work level, the time of day it is, the day of the week it is, the month of the year it is, the season it is. It could also be a situation of the type of people I'm around. It could be multiple things. And I feel like when people see, as I said before, when people see that you are able to kind of camouflage and be different in different situations, they see it as you being fake, not that you're easily adjusting, So I feel like that's what happened in that situation. For delving into the show and everything that took place there, she spoke about her past relationships and that she has the ability to be very dominant in relationships, and she's able to just use guys when she feels like it and discard them in a sense, a type of avoidant personality type. Now, people that typically have avoidant personality types tend to be people that are more scared than anything, but they show their fear by not showing their fear. So what it is that when they encounter somebody and they think that that person is potentially dangerous, or that person may innately have the same maybe negative intentions as she does, she wants to be the one to leave them first and detach first and not get hurt first and everything of that sort. So everything is kind of like a game to prove like who can end up looking the least vulnerable when it comes to avoidant personality types. And I think that is very crucial, because if you watch the interview, you realize that the whole time she's being questioned on this show, I don't think she sees herself as being in control. Yes, she controls her answers, but she's not able to control the questions being asked to her, nor is she being able to control people's perceptions of her, because she's coming onto this platform already assuming that people are not going to be on her side. She knows everybody's seen the reunion, everybody's been very disappointed in the way she's responded. I think she's expecting a lot of backlash. She's expecting a lot of pain, and she's expecting a lot of people to not listen to her perspective. And even if people do listen to her perspective, she's prepared herself for people to still not want to like her, So I think that's how she came onto this platform, and it's one of the reasons why she was never able to fully come full circle in the end and say, okay, this is what it is, and for her to come to a moment of clarity to say, this is why I did it. It's because she didn't really come there relaxed. She came there with a mindset that was on go still. And I think it made sense as to why she didn't end up, being like, okay, yes, I did this and this is why, and is my childhood, or is this trauma in the past, or this, because she's not in a place where she wanted to be vulnerable in that moment. She didn't come on the platform being vulnerable. She came on the platform to clear her name, to add context to things, and to leave. Okay, so Alexis, when it came to the actual reunion, what was a bit disappointing, not even just about Alexis and how she moved, but a lot of the castmates did the same thing. They allowed other cast members to put little bugs into their ear to turn them against certain people, and they did themselves a disservice by not going back and deciding, okay, is this person telling the truth? Let me go directly to them and ask them what was said. If I have my suspicions, let me go directly to the source and ask them, why is it that this person is asking me this? We spoke in confidence. How does this person know that I said A, B, C, and D? Make sure that before you get angry, you are 100% sure that the information you received was truthful. I think that Alexis kind of fell short when it came to that. she kept on mentioning that there was a recording. She only knew about a recording because someone told her. She wasn't privy to the recording. Even up to that interview, she hasn't heard any recording. Am I saying that there was never a recording? No. But what I am saying is that why do you hop on a recording so much if you've never heard of it? I think what she should have said was she heard A, B, and C, and she also got questions, very specific questions about this lunch or this dinner that she had with Koshia, Mika, and April. And just based on the conversations she had during that group lunch or whatever, it only made sense that one of the women went back and told a guy that she said a specific thing. So what I think it was that the women could have definitely invited her out to get information from her or to get a different side of her so that they'll be able to record it or go back and relate to the men to say, you guys think Alexis is so sweet. You guys think Alexis is so great. This is what Alexa said during our girls' time. This is what she said about you guys. And I feel like the women did that to sabotage her, but also to try to expose her because they feel as if the side that they get is not the side the men got. It kind of reminds me of Janelle from the previous season. But the thing about Janelle that differs from Alexis is that Janelle is a combination of the way Koshia stands up for herself as well as the way Alexis is able to camouflage and show herself differently to men than she does to women she doesn't care about. And so we saw how the men, no, despite whatever situation and drama Janelle had with the women, the men were still interested in her. It didn't matter to them. And the audience wanted it to matter to the men. They wanted the men to curse her out. They wanted the men to treat her badly because they felt like she deserved it because of the way she spoke to women, and the difference with Alexis is that she wasn't as blatant to both genders as Janelle was, because Janelle didn't care who was there at that moment. Like, if she has an issue with you, she's gonna let you know that she has an issue with you, right? So the men were not blinded by Janelle. They liked who she was for who she was. But the thing with Alexis is that I think the men had a different perception of her than the women did. And I feel like in this type of show, it doesn't matter what the women think about you, or so she thought. Because that's why she didn't give the women much energy, because that's not the type of women she typically hangs out with. If you listen to who she said she'd probably get along more with, was Vanessa and Leilin. And these are arguably the more, I should say, classy women of the show. And so I guess in regards to how she was brought up, these are the types of women she's more relatable with. But she tried with Koshia and Mika and April. She tried to be like them. She tried to, get on their level or, camouflage to fit them. But that's not her life. Most of these women have two baby daddies, different fathers. Most of these women have had to struggle. Most of these women probably did not benefit from the same pretty privilege that maybe Alexis grew up with. A lot of them don't get passes like Alexis may get because people think she's innocent, or people think she's not ratchet, or people think she's a different type of woman. So I definitely feel as if they were trying to out her in that regard. But I feel like she did give certain men certain clues that, hey, you think I'm this sweet person, that's not the only way that I am. Because I think when Jonathan made his interest in her known, I think she did tell him that, I'm not just this nice, relatable individual. I can also turn up. I can also be buck wild if I choose to. And I don't know if anybody clocked that moment. If I get the clip, maybe I could post it. I don't know. You know how copyright is. But I don't think she was trying to hide it from certain guys. I just think that she wasn't gonna blatantly be, how she is with one group of people to how she is with another group of people. She wasn't gonna mix that up. So whether it be a recording or not, I think that it's clear to say that the guys definitely got information from Mika and Koshia. And I feel like they gave it to the messiest guy of the season, Laron. Laron is the one that I'm assuming made that group chat. He invited Will, he invited William, and he invited any guy that was interested in playing the game. So I think that Alonso wasn't interested in playing the game. Dominic wasn't interested. I don't think Chaz was into that game as well. Neither do I think that Justin was into the game. These guys were gonna do what they were gonna do. So I guess Laron just felt as if, let me try to manipulate or get my way with the guys that were interested. And I still don't think ultimately it made a difference what they said, because producers are gonna still pick who they want to pick. On several occasions, producers have ended up making someone go that just didn't make sense. When Alexis left this particular season, it didn't make any sense, because the goal of the show is for the men to be interested in you, as many as possible. That's how you get further in the game. A lot of men were indeed interested in Alexis, a lot more than they were interested in the other women. So it was just very nonsensical that she was sent home when she was. And at the time, I think it was between Alexis and Mika. None of the men were interested in Mika at that time. Dominique wasn't interested in her anymore. She literally had zero connection with any of the other men. And the reason why she stayed, I have no idea. This is the weirdest season ever, because typically when somebody has no connection with anyone else, they end up leaving. But for some really weird reason, Mika ended up staying instead of Alexis. I'm not sure if it was as a result of maybe Laron pressing production to get Alexis off and blaming Alexis for a lot of the things that went on in the group and saying it's her fault, so let's get the troublemaker out. I don't know if that's why they got her out, but as a viewer, it made no sense when she was sent home. Now, when it came to the situation, and also before I even go to the next topic, she didn't feel protected by the women. So when she felt as if the women were leaking things she said to the men to kind of tint her image to the men, she decided then and there that these women are not my friends. They don't like me. They're not trying to be friendly with me. They want to take an opportunity, any weak opportunity, and use it to their advantage. So she did not feel protected in that instance. And I know people were saying that, oh, but she's the one that did it first. She's the one that sent information to Will about them. But what I will say is, I think that the women did it to her first. Honestly, I feel as if the women had issues. They thought she was fake. They thought the men were not getting the true Alexis, so they attempted to out her. And when she got wind of that, when she put two and two together and said, but how are you asking me this question out of the blue? Me and you never had this conversation, so you had to have gotten it from that lunch. So now I know these women are talking to these men about me, trying to sabotage me. So because of that, all bets are off. This is no longer a safe space, and I'm going to hurt them as well. I'm going to get them as well. So I feel like she definitely Because when Will mentioned he has an inside connect, I think obviously that was Alexis. That was the only woman that was interested in him. And so what happened was, I think after that, Alexis took screenshots of the group chats and sent it to Will. And then Will in turn sent it to his group chat, where they were able to discuss and determine, oh, this is what the women are saying. Let me go ahead and, deal with her and deal with them in that regard. So that's why the women felt like she was going back and bringing information to the men, but they're not saying that they also did it too. The Koshia situation. So when we got on the topic of Koshia and the situation of choked and spanked, that became a whole media sensation, because from what we saw, it appears as if Koshia did not appreciate being asked any sexual questions, because she was not interested enough in Alonso for her to even want to answer a question like that. And I think for some women to act like they cannot believe that you don't want to answer certain questions from certain people is crazy to me. I've said it many times. Women pick and choose who they want to answer certain questions from. She wasn't attracted to Alonso, so for her, it was a question that was not of bounds. She simply told him, I'm not interested in discussing what I will do sexually to you. And he was fine with it. Move on, right? And then it became a whole thing. And then in the women's lounge, Alexis's stance when it came to Koshia was that Koshia invites sexual attention to herself because she acts sexually towards the men. Now, do I feel like she was going over to all of the men and flirting with them? Absolutely not. But do I think that she did it to guys she was interested in? Sure. I don't think she had a problem with getting the energy back from people she was interested in getting that energy back from. But when it came to somebody she totally was not seeing in that space, it didn't make sense for her to open up herself to answer a question like that to him, right? So, do I feel like she was being sexual to William? No. Will? No. Jonathan? No. A lot of the men? No. But in who she was interested in, I don't think it's a problem for her to act that way with these types of men. We know Lamar is out of pocket. You will ask any and everybody about their sexual history, about a sexual question, whether they invite it or not. So I think that what Alexis was saying was false in terms of the fact that she invites it, because if it's something I'm inviting, I'm not going to have a problem when that energy is reciprocated to me. So if I'm not inviting it, I don't expect for you to give me that energy. And I feel like for a situation in Lamar would ask a nasty question regardless of whether you're interested or not. Alonso will ask a nasty question whether you're interested or not, because according to him, he wants to test people. So in my opinion, she was very out of bounds for that opinion. And it's very sad how she ended up being in a very compromising situation of her own when it came to Jonathan, because the intention was never for it to go the way that it went. I feel like she's the type of girl that, or woman I should say, she talks a good game. She talks tough, she acts tough, but I just think she does that because too many people have looked at her physical structure, according to what my sister says, and assumes that she's soft and she's easily, you could push her around if you want, you could do whatever you want with her, because what is she gonna do? She doesn't weigh much, she's little, she's light skinned, and we know in the black community the perception that people have of lighter skinned people, and I think that she got tried. She got tried because of that physical box she keeps trying to get out of, but people still don't see her in that way. So it's like, I'm gonna still try you. So Jonathan did that whole thing, and he said he did it out of boredom. Grabbed this woman, forced this woman onto his lap, started nuzzling this woman's neck, and she clearly was so uncomfortable. And I felt sorry for her in that moment, but I also felt like, you see how things work? You're discounting another woman's experience, and here you are now being violated by a man. A man that is taller than you, stronger than you, and is not listening to your protest and your inability to want to cooperate with him. In fact, he's telling you to just go along with it. And because you don't want to embarrass him, and because you don't want to make the situation out into a negative thing, you eat it up and you just take it as a L. You just take it as an L, you take it as a misunderstanding, and you kind of coddle him and you say, he has a family, he has friends, he has children. I don't want to embarrass him in that way. I've not seen him behave in that manner before, so I'm gonna give him some grace. So she had a lot of grace for him and no grace for Koshia. I feel like it's because she doesn't respect Koshia. She doesn't respect how Koshia moves with the men. She doesn't respect the type of person Koshia is. And she doesn't think Koshia is an honest person. So for her, and also because she never felt protected by Koshia, so she doesn't feel obligated to want to protect Koshia or be on Koshia's side. But when it came to her own experience, she didn't even really think of herself either in that situation. She was more so thinking of him and how he looks. And I think for me and a lot of women that have been put in like uncomfortable situations like these, your first thought is, let me protect the man. And I always have a habit of saying, I don't like drama. So yes, it's uncomfortable for me. Yes, I said no and I didn't like what happened, but I'm gonna just be quiet about it because I don't like drama. And I feel like what that ends up doing is doing us a disservice, because we silence our own selves to save people. And I feel like we should stop protecting these men. When they abuse us, we need to speak up about it, because we're saving another woman from a despicable, traumatic situation. And I think the reason why she gave Jonathan so much grace is because she had never seen Jonathan act out in that way. So for her, she's thinking that is not in Jonathan's nature. I'm pretty sure if it was someone like Lamar, she would have very little grace for Lamar. But because it was Jonathan and he was being a gentleman prior, she just said, okay, maybe he just did something stupid this time, so I'm gonna just give him a chance. But it's also hypocritical, because you now understand that you don't need to give off sexual energy in order to receive it. You never gave it off to him, and he took it. He did what he wanted to do to you regardless, because he saw you as little defenseless, cooperative, and so he took his shot. You think he would have been able to do that with somebody like Mika? I really don't think so. He sees Mika as this hood chick, this baby mama, this ghetto gal. So of course he wouldn't try that with Mika, because he's gonna probably be more sure that Mika wouldn't tolerate his nonsense and would definitely embarrass him. But for some reason, I feel like he took his chance with Alexis, because he knew she was not gonna embarrass him. She knew she was gonna protect him. And she's been very, I wouldn't say male identified, but siding more with the men in these situations. I also mentioned the revisionist history, a lot of the reunion, when she was basically relaying the information or replaying or revisiting the information of the reunion. She was seeing a lot of things that were not necessarily true or did not necessarily happen in that order. And I'm not even going to really call her a liar, but what I will say is that she didn't care for the detail of what happened. She just knew she was angry in that moment. So I don't think she was being very rational in trying to understand where people were coming from. She didn't care. You didn't have to do much to get her upset. She already came on the reunion defensive and already feeling like people, were against her. So she didn't need much. Now for the Laurent thing, all Laurent had to do was mention Alexis's name and the word snake, and so that's all she needed, and she went off on him. I know it looks horrible. I don't think she even remembers why it went the way it went. She just knew she was angry and she didn't like Laurent and she was upset with what he said about her and he mentioned her name and she went off. It was not rational. But then I feel like too many people are not even giving her just a little teensy bit of grace because she was not in a rational mindset at that moment. It's like we're trying to rationalize someone that was not being rational. How does that work? She doesn't really remember half of what went on the show. She doesn't even know in what order it went. She just knew it happened. She went off and she saw red and that was it. So the next thing about it that she made mention about was Justin. She didn't know what Justin did exactly. All she knew was that Justin told her shut the F up, which he did. And she knew that at some point Justin stood up, which he did. So people trying to gaslight her in that regard, I don't appreciate it because when I saw the way Justin reacted, I also was shocked. I was like, huh? I've never seen Justin be so angry and talk to women in that manner, you know? So what happened was, yes, he sat next to her in the beginning. He was angry. She was talking. She wouldn't stop. So he told her, be quiet. He showed her, okay, do this. Be quiet. Then she says, do you even know who I am? And he says, I don't give a F who you are. Shut up or whatever. And then Mika says to him, she's not gonna listen, leave her, whatever. Then she turns her attention to Mika and she goes, I'm gonna beat you up. And then Justin stands up. And that's what happened, you know. Now, I don't even care per se if she says the details verbatim because I honestly feel like most of the events of that reunion, she doesn't even remember it. All she knows is how she reacted. She probably doesn't even know why she reacted the way she did. All she knew was that she reacted unfavorably and she doesn't regret it because she feels like everybody was putting her in a corner, making her look like this villain, treating her like a way that she didn't like to be treated, and so she just went off. Now, so like during that reunion, Alexis wasn't being protected, and I think that's what gave Justin the gall to be able to shout at her and tell her shut the F up. And no, I don't agree with Justin's approach. I feel like you cannot fight fire with fire. You cannot approach an angry person with anger. You cannot want to assume that an angry person is gonna listen to you when you're cursing at them or when you're yelling back at them. It's only going to get worse. So that didn't even make sense for him to do. He should have just kept his mouth shut and let somebody else who was not as angry handle the situation. It's that simple. It's that simple. I don't care if she was yelling in his ear or not. The mature thing to do is to let security or whoever handle it, or relay your anger or frustration with security and tell them, this woman is yelling in my ear, can you please get this woman away from me? Or maybe you remove yourself from the situation. But yelling at the person, cursing at them, I think that was uncalled for and it didn't make the situation any better. Now, in the end, she was being asked, but I think she was being asked because she had already taken accountability multiple times. But what I think she was being asked, but what I will say about even the term accountability, a lot of people do not even know what accountability is. We have ran this word into the gutter. Everything is accountability this, accountability that, and people are using it in the manner that it's not even should be used for. Accountability is simply taking responsibility for what you did. Okay, so if I broke a glass, me taking responsibility for breaking that glass is telling you, yes, I broke that glass. That's accountability. That's it. People expect accountability to be me saying, yes, I broke that glass. I apologize for breaking that glass and I will never break that glass again. That's not accountability. That's accountability, apologizing, and then promising to not do a certain behavior again. That's multiple different things. But people put it under the umbrella of taking accountability. And I'm sick of it. I'm sick of it. She did take accountability. She said, yes, I did it. How could you deny that? She did it. She's not sorry for it. She only apologized to her parents and her family members. Let it be. She doesn't care to apologize to anybody else because she doesn't care for them. Okay. So what it is that he was asking her, where does the anger come from? You came there with all this anger. Where is it coming from? She wasn't able to answer it in a deep manner, but she did answer it throughout the interview. She said it in various parts of it. She said it's because she felt like she was unprotected. She felt like she was ganged up on. She was backed in a corner. She didn't want to be touched. It was sensory overload. It was too many things happening. Too many people standing over her. Too many people putting their hands in her face, near her face. She's not sure what's going on. Remember, she's in an inebriated state. This woman is not of rational mind and body. So to try to even argue with a drunk person, to me, is insane. That doesn't even make any sense. And to not take into consideration that, yes, being drunk means you're showing people your true intention. Okay, whatever. It also means that you're not reacting or responding to rational cues. Okay, and I think that should be given greater credit. I think in the end, the question that was being asked to her was, where did this anger originate from? Because this is not a one-off thing. It's something that you do. Why do you do it? And I think it's just because, just take it back to the origin of it. She doesn't want to be boxed in. She doesn't want to be treated like she's this dainty person that could be taken advantage of. She wants to prove that she cannot be taken advantage of. She didn't feel protected, not by production, not by the other cast members. So she decided, okay, I'm going to get this liquid courage and handle these people by myself. I'm going to protect myself by myself. That was it. I think to get or to want another answer beyond that is crazy to me, because I feel like in order to get a deep answer to why are you angry or why do you respond to things in that manner, you have to take it back to the first time she decided that she needed to protect herself in that manner. What took place that made her feel that way? And to be able to get that type of answer, you have to ask the question in a manner for you to get that answer. For example, when was the first time that you felt you had to defend yourself in that manner? Or when was the first time that you got this angry and you lashed out at people? Maybe that would have given a more accurate response, but who knows? But oftentimes, when you ask people to go back and give me the first instant that you did something or tell me when this began, it requires reflection, and people cannot come up with that answer on the spot. Sometimes it takes you to go home and reflect, and for you to connect things together and say, oh, no wonder I did this, is because on this day, at this time, in this moment, I reacted that way. I think grace should have been given and things should have just been left at, okay, you take the surface responses and move on, because there's no way you come to an interview, you already think everybody is not on your side and you're gonna want to be vulnerable in that moment. And no way. I don't care if the interview was 11 hours long, I don't think she would have been able to answer in the manner that she was expected to answer. Sometimes journalists do interviews and they don't get the answers they want. That's okay. They don't go around asking the questions 11 times. At some instance, it creates frustration between both parties. It just doesn't make sense. What I do think, though, is that co-hosts are very important. So sometimes you may not be able to articulate the question that you'd like to ask the interviewee. So basically, your co-host, knowing your information, knowing who you are, is able to articulate, okay, he's trying to ask you A, B, C, and D in a more cohesive manner, in a short manner, in a manner that is easily understandable. I feel like the energy that Alexis gave throughout this interview was, don't play with me. I may look this way, but don't think ish is sweet. Like, I could get down with the best of them. And that is her protection mechanism. So in the end, she didn't want to be vulnerable because she did not feel comfortable. She put herself in a position to be villainized, and she knows that. So I don't know any time where villains feel comfortable to relax around certain people. So I don't think she felt relaxed. I don't think she felt comfortable. She was being judged left and right in the comment section. Granted, she did not watch the comments. She didn't watch it for a reason. She didn't watch it because she knew a lot of it would be scrutiny. So she didn't come there being ready to break down her most vulnerable moments and make herself likable. Which is why she had to flip it on Kojo and start asking him questions, because she didn't want to continue being in that very vulnerable position. She wanted to take control. And I think this has been the story of Alexis's life for all of her life. She's struggling to take control of her own life, from her parents, their rules, their guidelines, their good intentioned warnings. She didn't care. She wanted and she wants to never be in a situation where she's vulnerable. She wants to never be in a situation where she's not in control of her entire life and people's perception of her. And this show took control away from her. She had people making people perceive her in a way that she didn't want herself to be perceived. She had people, painting herself or her negatively as an individual. She had people assuming certain things about her. Her entire life has been her trying to fight people's perceptions of her or misconceptions of her, and I feel like that is why she was so angry on this show. That is where her anger stemmed from. It stemmed from fighting to be heard, fighting to not be prejudged, fighting to control herself, her perception of herself, which is why it probably hurts her so much that she allowed alcohol to affect the way she conducted and controlled her own self. So in that case, she wasn't even in control of herself. And I think watching back, she's so cringe. Like, she feels so cringy because, like, who is this individual? I'm typically in control of my life. I've fought all my life to be in control of my life. And look at how I let alcohol, ruin the control I thought I had over my life. So that alone makes you feel out of control. And I think the whole Jonathan thing added to the feelings of not being in control of her life and her circumstances. So I think that is what it was essentially. Let me know what you guys thought about Kojo's interview with Alexis. Like, subscribe, share your feelings about it in the comment section, and see you guys next time. Bye bye.